Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode. They say never meet your heroes. That's bullshit. Faisal's been one of my heroes for many years now. And this is the second time we've actually had him come on the show. So I just want to say, I want to thank Joseph for putting us together. Guys, this episode is going to be talking about how to live a purpose-driven life, but how your purpose and your mission can change over time. Faisal has been one of my favorite people in the world. One thing I love about him that he'll tell you that he went from janitorial engineer to CEO. Going to be four soon. The new book coming out next year. But he's also trying to eradicate cancer from this earth. So he's doing a lot of great things, and I'm grateful to call him a friend. My brother, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Honored. Always happy to be with you, Richard. Thank you so much for bringing me back.
Well, one thing I love about you is you live up to your name. I know in Arabic your name means prosperous. And I love that you actually live up to your name, because you're not only prosperous in business, but you're prosperous in your relationships and in life. But let me ask you a question. The first question will be, because I know that your life hasn't always been unicorns, rainbows, Skittles. So what is your definition of resiliency?
Look, it's the I think I don't think anybody's life is unicorn and rainbows. I think we all have our ups and downs, and we suffer from different things at a different time. I think the definition of resiliency is, which I use metaphorically. It's like a bamboo. If you look at a bamboo, it bends, but it doesn't break, and it always bounces back. So it's the ability to bounce back from whatever thrown at you is what is religion. I mean, resiliency is all about. So I look at it from that point of view, and life is always a ebb and flow, ups and down. It's never a straight line or a steady stream, and you just don't know what's going to happen around the corner. So you just have to have that mindset that no matter what comes, you're going to be ready for it.
So let me, you don't exactly have the Italian accent. So tell me a little bit about where you come from, where did you grow up, and how did you become such a force today?
Well, I don't know about becoming a force, but I'll tell you where I come from. I was born in Bangladesh, which is in right on the Bay of Bengal, in between Nepal and India. I came to U.S. when I was study computer science and electrical engineering, then switched to computer science and management science. And when I come from a middle class family. My father is a retired civil engineer, and my mom is a homemaker. But they wanted me to be back there, and my father wanted me to go to his civil engineering school, which I didn't want to do. So we had a kind of like a fallout, and I left home with nothing. And that's kind of how my journey started. So I first ended up in Southern Illinois University. Then I got a little bit of scholarship uh, from University of Minnesota. This is where I met my wife some 35 years ago now. And I became a graveyard shift janitor as my first job. And prior to that, I had never worked in my life because, as I said, I come from a middle class family. We weren't rich, but we didn't have to work as kids to put food on the table, right? So that's kind of where it started. Since then, I've been I mean, in US, obviously, moved from Minnesota to Connecticut. That's home. We've been living here for 30 plus years now. But I had opportunity to work every part of the world. Whether that's in Europe or whether that's in Asia, wherever, and done work in private sector, public sector, in academia, you name it. I had enormous amount of fortune to work with some of the brightest and the bravest. And for the last 7 years, I've been pretty dedicated to working with our federal government more particularly for DoD agencies.
Okay, so let's talk. Because my best friend, he's from India, and he still loves the warm weather. So you move from Bangladesh, you go to Southern Illinois, then you become a Minnesota Golden Gopher, and then you move to
Yeah.
Connecticut. Do you just like the cold weather?
You know what? It wasn't about the weather. It's like wherever I could survive, right? So when I went to Southern Illinois University, that university gave me like $600 scholarship, tuition scholarship per semester. That was the deciding factor, right? And it was a big enough campus. I figured that if it's a big enough campus, I could potentially find some campus work to put food on the table. So that was the driving factor. And then University of Minnesota, I got through a friend of mine, I got introduced to University of Minnesota, and they offered me a full scholarship, and that was it. It wasn't about whether it's cold, warm, who's there, who's not there. It was okay. I could go to school, and then I'll have to figure out how to eat. So it's kind of that kind of decision. And Connecticut, what happened, when I was in my fourth year of college, I came up with a software product, and while at school, and I put that product on a floppy disk during those time. We're talking about '90s, and sent out this floppy disk to a bunch of these trading houses. Like the investment houses in New York and a couple of companies in Connecticut. And that's how I got my first job. And I had 6 job offers based on that demo. And Pitney Bowes hired me, which is that time it was like a Fortune 500 company, which
Yeah.
is based in Stamford, Connecticut. That's it's not like choose to go somewhere. It's you go wherever you can survive, and ultimately have a career prospect, right? So that's kind of how I ended up in Connecticut. But since then, it's been a great place to live, and great. It has been very kind to me in terms of my ability to enhance my career, but also build several companies right here in this state.
Well, I told a couple people that we're going to be talking today. And my friend Joe wanted to know what is Mr. Convergence?
Now you're really going on memory lane. So 25 years ago, in like late 90s, it's actually 1999. I wrote a book called E-Enterprise, which got published by Cambridge University Press. And then, as a follow-on to that book, I wrote another book called The Alignment Effect. And my argument was that as fast as technology was improving at that time, the many of the business models were failing, and especially when we saw the internet bubble in 2000. And my argument was that if we don't have a firm grasp on the business model and the value we're bringing to the customer, all this technology is meaningless and it's going to fail. So we have to converge the management of business and management of technology together. We cannot separate those things out. I mean, after 25 years, that meant, of course, if you don't understand business, you can't use technology. And if you don't understand technology, you can't understand business. But during those days, it was pretty provocative and forward thinking, because there was business management and there was technology management, right? So it got very popularized, and a lot of schools, meaning universities across the globe, started to use that thesis part of their coursework, and obviously the customers were using it. So as a result, some of the media dubbed me as Mr. Convergence, which is really the convergence of business and technology together.
All right, but because we're talking about today, we're actually it's May 1st, 2024. If you're not in the AI space, or if you're not, like I use AI every day. I use Chat GPT-4. That's my preference, but I
Sure.
use it as an assistant. I don't use it as a crutch. Like, and I tell everybody, my doctor has an assistant, my lawyer has an assistant, Chat
Right.
GPT is my assistant, but I don't use it as a crutch. But I tell everybody, if you're not using AI or learning AI, you're going to get blown past.
Yeah.
Like 25 years ago, everything is
Yeah.
converging, and if you're not part of that convergence, you're going to get ran
Yeah.
over. So talk about that. How even 25 years ago, it's still the same today.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the fundamental remains the same in the sense that you have to be able to stay with the technology, use the technology, and we have seen many, evolution of that, right? So, for example, when we were talking about 25 years ago, the browser was just coming out, and we kind of started to do online shopping. And now, if you look at even a simple example as online shopping, before we get into more advanced area, I mean, we're already getting into augmented reality where you can look at the camera and you look at some clothing, and the software takes your image and put the shirt on you to see how the shirt fits on you, right? So these are and then pretty soon we're going to see these 3D holographic image of your sneakers on your phone, right? So these are some, or like so these are kind of a very retail centric example, but you can also look at the communication. The fact that you and I are doing this on a video call. I mean, even 5 years ago, it was not that popular, but the pandemic kind of pushed it. So technology, progression happens both from a technology evolution, but also societal adoption based on geopolitical and the overall global changes that happen, and drivers, whether that's pandemic or war, whatever the case may be. Some of this technology becomes very relevant, right? So with AI, what will happen is that, I mean, every factor, every segment. I mean, a little bit ago we were talking about cancer research. I mean, AI will play a significant role because the computational power of AI allows you to look at a vast amount of data in a very quickly. So if you have a research base of a lot of patient data, you would be able to detect and predict a pattern for early detection of cancer patient. You would also be able to kind of figure out what is the optimal medication for particular DNA type, right? Which today doctors can do that easily because the research time it takes and the pattern driven forecasting model is not that sophisticated, but it will get there with this kind of engine. So you mentioned about AI. I mean, I'm writing a book on AI right now, but it's like a two-sided coin, right? There's opportunity, but there's also governance, right? We could also easily destroy the entire mankind if you're not careful about it. I mean, you kind of can see what happened with social media. There's good about it and there's bad about it, right? So, but AI has 1,000 times, million times more impact on both positive side as well as on the negative side. So what will happen is that, I mean, you're talking about utilization. Utilization of AI would be based on what is that you do on a day in, day out basis. So as an example, you mentioned that you use AI as an assistant. I am using a particular tool called Perplexity.ai that has several models, GPT-4, GPT-3, et cetera, et cetera. I use it for research. Often enough, I'll go there and say, hey, what did I say 10 years ago about innovation management, right? And it will pull up what I said, but it also give the references or a citation where it picked it up from. So I can, so if I did it manually, I mean, it will take like an hour to do the research on regular search engine or whatnot, right? So what it's doing is cutting down that mundane work that could be a lot faster. That's where it is today. But in the future, it will become a augmented intelligent persona that you will use it particularly relevant to your lifestyle and your job, right? So that's where we're going with all this.
Now, I want to say is when your book comes out, I want to buy the first copy. I want an autographed
Thank
copy.
Thank you. I will be sure to send it to you.
Because I love. I'll buy it. I don't want you to send it. I'll buy it because I support with my friends with my wallet. I don't just support them with my words.
Thanks.
But talking about AI, like now, once you start delving into it and you start studying it, I can actually look and see which posts are AI driven, even if it's just something like the first few words. If you see the word unlock, it's pretty much straight out of Chat GPT without any editing. It's just straight out. But I think if you add the AI, but then you also add the human element, I think that you have a much more chance of being seen because now 80, like Gary Vaynerchuk said, 80 to 90% of all posts in the next year or two is going to be AI. But if you kind of meld them together, AI, but also your personality, you actually I think, can get ahead of just the people that are just doing AI, right?
Oh, yes. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, your target audience is still human, right? Your target audience is not some machine or AI. So how do you connect with another human being? You connect with another human being with humanity, which is really about your personality, your what it's your soul, right? It's your particular a personality, and the way you portray yourself is what other people sees and other people gets attracted to, right? So when you're writing something or when you're delivering a piece of work, whatever the case may be, if you don't have that, then you're going to have that dry, fact-based, not even 100% accurate stuff that's generated by AI that doesn't have any soul in it, right? So but it's getting pretty difficult. I mean, because you've seen this AI generated video, and it's hard to say what it's. It's getting pretty difficult. But the people who are going to be successful in next generation are the people who has the ability to ask the right question and has the critical thinking, because the engine returns the quality of whatever you're getting out of it is the quality of the questions that you're asking, right? So what that means that you have to be a pretty deep thinker and a domain expert to get the right answer, and then also challenge the answer and modify the answer. So it's an enabler, not the output. You are still the driver of the output, right? So you have to look at it from that perspective.
And something that a lot of people I've talked to, oh, I don't like AI. I've never used AI. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Have you ever watched Netflix and watch a movie that they recommended? You're like, yeah. I'm like, guess who just used AI? You did. So, but talking about that is, it's all like, even life, it all goes to about the questions that you ask. And like if 100 people ask the same question to Chat GPT or whatever, they're going to get the same answers. But like when I ask a question to Chat GPT, it's usually this long.
Sure.
So, I get different answers than the average person. So talk about how important it is. The inputs is going to affect the output, right?
Sure, absolutely. And you have to dig deeper, right? I mean, and by the way, and in order for you to dig deeper, you have to be a subject matter expert, or you have to learn that particular topic and then ask the question. So that's where it is today. But what will happen, Richard, that mundane things are going to get more and more automated, right? I mean, you're not going to, maybe, like, for example, if you needed 5 research assistants to do a particular research, you're not going to need that 5 research assistant. You can get away with just 1, right? And because the manual effort that goes into doing this, it's going to go away, right? So that's same with manufacturing, right? I mean, if we add the automation you add robotics with AI intelligence, you're already seeing the cars are being manufactured by robots, and the factories are now are stocked with, sorry, warehouses are being stocked with robots, like Amazon use robots to do those inventory control, etc. So there's many utilization of AI, particularly in the area of mundane, manual, repeated, activities. Right, the creative work, I think, will never be completely replaced by AI. So I think the human beings and workforce in general will get elevated to perform at a much more creative and much more higher level of domain expertise than what you're seeing today. But by the way, as scary as it may sound, that has been going on for last 200, 300, 400 years. Maybe not at this faster pace, but I mean, you don't do farming the same way you used to do before, right? You don't do, you don't do construction the same way you used to do before. You don't treat patient the way you used to do before, right? But that didn't replace the farmers or the construction workers or the healthcare provider. It's just a higher level, right? And it's okay, because I mean, if you look at our kids, right? If you look at the 5-year-old, 10-year-old kids, they're already far more, adapted to these kind of environment. They can imagine a dial phone. I mean, the landline. If you talk about they can't even imagine a landline, right? They can't even imagine that there was no internet 25 years ago, right? I mean, so they're already far more adaptive, and I think it's going to be okay from that point of view. The challenge is going to be, there's also bad effect, like the way we can manipulate information with AI, the way we can create complete chaos in a democratic process, or we create war zones, et cetera, et cetera. But stealing people's identity and information. There's a whole slew of new generation crimes that we're not at all familiar with, right? Stealing people's intellectual property. These would be major factors to deal with, right? So that's going to be the challenges of next generation individual, but also for the organization and people.
But I also, once I heard AI, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I took a deep dive. I mean, I went down the rabbit hole, and I probably listened to thousands of hours on YouTube, but just learning about AI. But for me, it's kind of like I've learned so much. I use it as a learning tool where, I know a lot of people that write articles with AI, but if you put them on a stage somewhere, they won't have any idea what they just wrote. They it was all AI. And if you ask them, well, what did you mean here? And they're like,
Right.
I think that's one thing. You can use it as a learning tool like I have, or you can just have it write stuff, and you're not really learning anything to actually use in a talk or a book or a speech. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's like, like if you go to, any of this engine and say like, hey, I'm writing an article, or I'm writing a book, or I'm doing a speech, give me a case study with these parameters, right? And it will give you a case study. And you can ask, give me a real case study. So it'll pull up from previous publications and whatever. Or if you say, okay, create a fictitious case study with these parameters and show the use of these elements in a case study, it will do that for you. Now, it's being like a lawyer, right? I mean, if you're gonna go on a stage and you're arguing for your case, but you don't know the previous cases that you draw your conclusion from, you're not going to be able to hold up the argument, right? So that doesn't enhance your domain, your expertise or your credibility. That actually destroys it, because it shows how little you know about the subject matter that you're talking about. So, as you know, doing and talking are two different things, right? Unfortunately or fortunately, we have a society where a lot, people who talks a lot gets a lot of airtime, but people who does it and then try to talk about it doesn't get a lot of airtime because they're busy doing, right? So the people who are doers, I think these kind of tools are going to be extraordinary enhancing. Like, I was saying, often enough, I'll go because somebody will ask me, so what did you say about this? Can you write up a synopsis, right? Or my customer will say, Faisal, what do you think about an innovation lab? And I would say, shit, I don't remember. I mean, it's been 20 years since I've been talking about it, right? So I would go in the engine and say, okay, give me what I said in last 5 years. But this is like drawing, like pulling things, the work that I have done myself. So my point is, when I'm doing that, instead of spending like 5, 6, 10 hours, it takes like 15 minutes, and I have the references. So it's a different. I mean, it's all individualization, right? I mean, it's like you want to be a doctor and you went to YouTube and saw some surgical procedure and you think you can do it. Go ahead and do it. You're going to kill the patient, or you look at some YouTube videos and start becoming, okay, I learn how to change my oil, but now I'm going to go and rebuild my engine. Well, you can't, because that's not what you do as a profession, right? So that professional deep skill, deep work cannot be replaced by any kind of superficial augmentation or superficial, things. You have to learn what you're doing.
And then there's also people that say, well, I'm just going to use the free version, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'd rather pay whatever it is a month. But I also appreciate that once you start inputting it and it starts to get it to know you, it starts to craft the answers in
Sure.
your words. So I think that helps out a lot, because then it starts to know your patterns, your speech patterns. So when you do write a paper, it sounds like you. Like if I write a paper and there's a bunch of, words that college people speak, they know, hey man, wait, that's not Rich. That's not him. That's AI. But one good thing is it learns your patterns, it learns your speech patterns.
Yeah, well, because right. I mean, you have to, look. It's the way AI works. You have a what they call the large language model, and you're feeding that model with a bunch of data, right? And the data is pattern and previous work or whatever it is. So the more you fill it up, the more it's easier for it to come up with a predictive model that you're trying to. It's a generative. That's why it's called generative AI. Right? It's generating from things that exist. It's not generating things that doesn't exist. Right. So that's where the stage of AI today is. It's generative. So the generative means it has to have a source. So the more accurate stuff you feed it, the better it's going to generate a likable pattern and usable pattern than otherwise.
And also, then we'll talk about books. A lot of people, they talk about, AI and how it helps. But a lot of people, like Gary Vaynerchuk just did a talk, and he asked how many people have used Chat GPT in the last 30 days, and 99% of the hands went up. And then I did some research because I like to learn on my own. I don't like to hear somebody say this is a number and it's not a real number. But Google searches are down almost 30% because people are going to Chat GPT or whatever, whichever one, Baird, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And you're searching because they know if you search on Google, the first 6 things are going to be all sponsored content. But if you search on an AI site, you're pretty much going to get the answer and not having to worry about all that sponsored stuff. So it's a little bit easier to sift through the crap, right?
Sure. Look, I mean, it's a like analogy would be, when internet was coming to be a usable environment, it was like using a yellow page versus going to a search engine, right? I mean, the yellow page went away, right? And so the same thing will happen. This the 2-dimensional search that we do on search engine, whether that's Google or I don't know, Microsoft or whatever, or Yahoo, whatever it is, you're gonna, that's gonna get replaced by this AI engine because the computational power and the pattern-driven search and predictive models are much more stronger than the two-dimensional search, right? So that's what's going to happen.
Okay, now I just got a text message from somebody that's watching us, and Tony asks, I see that you were ousted as a CEO out of your own company. Why?
Yeah. Okay. Again, we're going in memory lane. So this was my I think second or third company. Maybe it's the second company. Maybe it's the second company. I started a company right out of Living GE Capital, and this was a company that was in the business of component software, and it will allow you to take these pieces of components of software and create application for e-business. And so we were very successful from the beginning, because first thing I did before I left GE, I actually recruited GE as my first customer, and so we had customer from day one. And by the second year, I mean, we were doing close to $10 million in revenue. And we didn't really need to raise a venture fund, but these are the go-go days of internet. So we're talking about like 1999, 1998. So we want to raise a lot of money from venture capitalists, the big name ones. And within 6 months, I started having debate with them that how to scale it. And I was saying it's too nascent because we're only 2 years and we're selling to these large enterprises, which we're just beginning to adopt these things. We're way far away from being able to scale at the rate that you expect, and that created a conflict. So they asked me to stay on as a chairman and brought in a new quote unquote senior management. And at that time I was like in my 30s. So I mean, what do it? Barely 30. I mean, I think I was like 29 or 31, something like that. And So they said, look, in that case we have to part away, and because I didn't have the controlling stake anymore after raising that kind of money, so they ousted me. But 18 months later, even after by the time I was ousted, I had MasterCard, Amex, GE, Home Depot, as my customers. So 18 months later, they lost all those customers and run the whole thing to ground. So, but by the time they run that to the ground, I already published my first book, which was called E-Enterprise. It was with Cambridge University Press, which is Cambridge University is a pretty well-known university globally out of UK. But I also started my next company, which I then ran for following 15, 17 years. But yeah.
So what lesson did you learn? Because a lot of people, if they fail, they don't fail forward. So what lessons did you learn? I mean, it wasn't a failure, but I'm sure it was a big learning curve. So what lessons did you take into your next company from that previous?
It was a failure in the sense that it was certainly a massive blow to ego as a starting point, but also the fact that we had a very big opportunity to really shape a particular market segment, and I was right, but I wasn't able to do it. So, but it was also a huge learning process for me, because I wasn't a mature leader that time as I am many years afterwards. I was very arrogant. I was young, arrogant. I didn't manage my investment community as well as I could have. I was too focused on success and driving, and I was not maturing as a person or as a leader, right? So this was kind of a wake-up call. I also learned how to scale a company and how not to scale a company. I learned when to infuse capital and not to infuse capital. I learned how to build a better ecosystem, which I wasn't as a early stage CEO at that time. I wasn't as familiar or as savvy. So this was like if you look at my personal and professional journey, I would say this was like transformation number two. Transformation number one was when I got here, meaning in US as a student. Being ousted was transformation number two, because up until then it was all upswing. I came, I put myself to school, got jobs, started a couple of companies, everything is honky-dory, right? So there's like a all straight line, all upward mobility. So this was kind of like a blow, but which I needed, right? So I mean, it's like Steve Jobs says that, those are pretty tough pill to swallow, but looking back, it kind of made sense. I needed that lesson, right? And it made me stronger, right? So from there on, I went through several transformation, and also this is what began my writing career, because up until then, I wasn't writing, I was not reflective, I wasn't totally conscious or a aware, self-aware leader that I am today. So it started a whole new chapter for my life.
But then also let's talk about, because a lot of people, they see success in business or whatever they're doing, whatever their niche is in life, and then something like cancer hits home. And that's when you're like, okay, I'm making money, but do I really have a purpose, or am I just selling widgets? So talk
Sure.
to us, because you had some personal stuff coming to your home, and
Yeah.
now you're trying to deal with not only business, but you're also dealing,
Yeah.
trying to take care of your son. So talk about that. There's
Sure.
personal and there's business, and a lot of
Sure.
us are strong. One usually affects the other. So talk about that.
Sure. So look, I mean, so I would. There's a couple of things happen. So, 8, 9 years ago, when I exited my last company, and I was thinking what to do next, I really wanted to go and apply everything I learned for our government, because, I kind of felt that, I mean, I love this country. I became a citizen, and I wanted to service. I want to, I want to serve, but I would not have the chance to wear a uniform. So I kind of shifted my gears from private sector to public sector, and for last 7, 8 years now, I've been exclusively doing most of the work in the public sector, meaning DoD, DHS, etc. So while I'm doing that, pandemic hits, and my publicist, which has been with me for some 20 years now. Her name is Lori Ames. She says, "Hey, Faisal, you got to, it's time to write another book because pandemic hit and a lot of things changed." So I started kind of, and my son, by the way, at that time, this is 3 years ago. He was about 18 years old, and he was in freshman in college in Hofstra, which is in Long Island. So it's the first semester, school shuts down. He comes home. We think he's feeling sick. We think it's COVID. Turns out it's a rare blood cancer, right? So and I'm starting to write that book, and I'm saying, shit, I can't do anything. I'm going to collapse. But my resiliency kicks in, and I said, okay, we'll deal with it. And so we not only he's okay, by the way, now, and he's doing fine, and he's gone back to school. He's going to local school, and he lives with it, and he's getting regular treatment. We're very fortunate that he has access to treatment, because where we live and the medical facilities that we have around us. But what happened is that my mind shifted again, and I said, okay, well, I think I have an opportunity to contribute while I take care of my son, to bring awareness to this rare disease that he has through my writing, but also taking the proceeds from my books and donating it to blood cancer research, because what he has is a type of blood cancer. So I finished Lift, and it became a #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller. Then I released Everything Connects, which also became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And I wrote another book called Reinvent, which also became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And I've kind of like bringing awareness through my platform for this cause, but also donating whatever I can to the Cancer Society, or research, to these research centers that takes care of him and patients like him. One of the things that I got very interested in, we were talking about AI so much, is the application of AI in healthcare, or more particularly in cancer. So I'm working on a book right now, which is on AI, but it's unleashing the human potential, whether that's in the from the perspective of healthcare, or whether that's creativity, or how we bring the human society together through better governance process, et cetera, but also how we put a cap around it so that it becomes rogue. It doesn't become rogue. So that's what I'm working on. Um, I set up a separate company called nextchapter.org, where all these, those research writing related proceed goes in there, and then it goes to cancer research. But what I found through this process, and we talked about this last time when you and I talked about, I mean, when you look at problem bigger than you, and you have some means, and you have the capacity, it means not just financial, but if you have the physical and mental capacity to think about beyond what's happening within your realm and in your household, you actually gain strength from it, right? So I and my family gain strength from the fact that, well, yes, of course, we'll have to deal with my only child's situation, but I can use this to bring awareness and help others. And we're much more fortunate than many others, because, as you know, there are a lot of people who are dealing with this disease who doesn't have access to any kind of medication. Their financial situation is so bad that they will go broke by they don't have the insurance, and they will go broke, right? There's a lot to be done, and when you start thinking about the other people who are a lot unfortunate than you are, you gain strength from it, and you feel like you're fighting as a community, not as an individual, right? So this is a big learning, about resiliency. You're not the only one who's who are suffering. There are similar people who are suffering, and if you want to do something about the collective suffering, somehow your burden seems a lot less.
Yeah, and one thing I believe, ever since talking to Tony Robbins, I believe that if you use your RAS, your reticular activating system, if you whatever you look for, you're going to find. So if you're looking for positive, or if you're looking to negative, you're going to find it. Like a lot of people are hating on AI, but I had a friend. They went to the doctor to get some X-rays on their body, and the doctor's like, "Hold on, let me use AI, and I'm going to put this MRI through it. I'm going to scan for something." And 10 minutes later, it went through hundreds of thousands of scans and found the problem, where it might have taken months, or it may have never been found, because it can go through MRIs and X-rays like this. So there's some positives to the AI, but then there can also be the negatives to the AI.
Sure. No, of course. I mean, look, it's you don't have to forecast. You just look at social media, what it has done in last 4 or 5 years. I mean, we are a very divisive society. One could easily argue that it is because of social media, but it's also the social media which has brought people together, right? So there is your pros and cons, right? So same thing will happen with AI.
All right, so I got a question from another listener. His name is Jacob. Jacob asked, "I'm getting out of the military in 6 months. So what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for me, so I can help get into the corporate world or into entrepreneurship?"
So first thing is, look, the basic principle that you learn in military in terms of leadership and in terms of resiliency and living a higher purpose, that will serve you well. But the corporate world and the military world are very different place, in the sense that the purpose of a corporation is efficiency, profit, and maybe doing good. But it comes in a different, priorities are different than when you're serving in the military, right? So So shifting that mindset is critical, right? And but you're going to find a new freedom when you go back in the corporate world, because it perhaps a lot less bureaucratic than working in a large military organization. So that's the strength. The weakness is that it's often enough military personnel has this tendency of waiting for direction, guidance, orders, whatever you want to call it. Corporate world and entrepreneurial world is very much of resourcefulness and taking initiative, do things. I don't know where Jacob is retiring from based on his rank. He might have already had that higher rank, so might have had the taste of the leadership and taking initiative. But if you're retiring as a lower ranking military personnel, you might have not had that taste. So you're gonna have to practice that. And the third is that be kind to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. You will find your way, right? And try to find out what really jazz you or tick you, however you want to put it, and focus on that and apply the basic training and the learning that you have had. Because one good thing about military is that it builds disciplines, right? So you have to take that, and if you look at regular life, civilian lives, a lot of people are not as disciplined because that's self-learned, right? In military, it's institutionalized discipline. So that's going to serve as a strength. So combination of being resourceful and taking initiative, taking a little bit of risk, and trying to try out a few things and finding your way. That is the entrepreneurial way, and that is ultimately also the corporate way, right? But lean on your strength, but also get out of your mold. It's a balance.
Okay, so talk to us about, because I'm big on relationships, I'm big on mentorship, and I'm big on LinkedIn, guys. I love LinkedIn. And if you're a veteran, you get LinkedIn Premium for free for 1 year. You can take as many courses, you can get in touch with as many people as you want because they give it to you for free. So if you're not taking advantage of it, you need to take advantage of it. So talk about how important relationships and having a mentor is in entrepreneurship and life in general.
Sure. Look, I mean, as much as we are a society that are very self-focused, and perhaps we are much more divisive than we ever been, but in as a whole, I think people are very giving. They are, especially if you look at in US, right? People are giving and people are generous. I like to believe that. I lead by that principle, and I feel that, right? So what that means is that when you have this relationship and you belong in a community, if you ask, more people will be willing to say, I will try to help you, and they will help you. So you have to ask for it, right? So being, if you ask for help or you want somebody to be mentor, if you want somebody to be your mentor, then you have to ask for it. And so, because especially the successful leaders, they become leaders by giving, not by taking, right? The more you give, the more you gain. This is the way of the world. I mean, this has been the way of the world ever since the birth of the world, right? So, and we don't always recognize this. So please ask for help and please reach out to people. Don't try to sell them. Ask for help. There's a difference between selling and asking. Ask for feedback if you are selling a product. If you want their input, if you're writing a book, then ask for input. Don't ask them to endorse you. Ask for their input, and they will endorse you, right? If you're looking for a job, ask what you can learn from them and how they build their career, so that you can learn from them. They will, as a result, they will connect you with other people. So LinkedIn is a great place for connecting people, but you also have to be able to learn how to ask. Not just ask, but learn how to ask, because there's different ways to ask for things. And I honestly believe that I believe in the goodness of people, right? I like to believe in goodness of the people versus all selfish. Nobody cares about each other and nobody wants to help. But I think more people are giving than not, right? So you got to be able to ask, and people will help.
And I agree with 100% what you said, because my new book that just dropped today,
Congratulations.
and it's already it's a top seller already. And the book is actually, the whole back cover and he is endorsed by Mr. John Lee Dumas. And he's the one that taught me how to podcast, and he's my mentor, my teacher. But I invested in him, my time,
Yeah.
my money, my friendship. I invested in him, and then he invested in me, and now
Sure.
he's actually, endorsing my new book. So I think that's important, that you pour into others, and they'll pour into you back. But even the
Yep.
first time we met, I never said, "Hey, brother, I got a great podcast. Why don't you come on?" When the first time I had you on, I'm like, "Hey, I love everything you're doing. I would appreciate if you would come on. I would love to promote your new book. Would you mind coming on to talk to my veterans?" And you were like, "Sure." But if I would have just came out, "Hey, bro, I got a podcast. Why don't you come on it?" You're like, "I don't know you. Why you're not? Why would I even entertain the thought of coming on your show if I don't know you and you're just asking for something?"
Sure.
Right?
No, absolutely. It's a, and as I said, I think the more successful you are, the more successful leaders are very giving. They're humble, they're willing to help you, and they will help you. But you have to ask. You have to know how to ask for it.
So what else is going on in your world, and how can we support you? Where can we get your books, and how can we support your mission and helping to eradicate cancer, and also helping veterans and entrepreneurs?
Sure. Look, I mean, regarding books, they're available everywhere. Barnes and Noble, Amazon. You can get it online. You can also get some of it in the particular bookstores. Every proceed goes to cancer research. So if you want to give them as a gift or buy it for yourself, please do. You're going to get something out of it, but you're also going to help with the cancer research. So that's on the cancer side. Regarding the vets, I am working. I am trying to work more and more with the duty community. So if anybody wants any kind of advice, whatever, what to do post military career, I'm happy to share anything and everything I know. I don't need anything from anybody in that regards. Happy to help if anybody wants help. It's my honor and my privilege, and it's my way of giving back. So please reach out to me. You can get hold of me on LinkedIn. You can get a hold of me, multiple ways. So that's really it. And as I said repeatedly, I'm grateful beyond words, and I've been very, very, very lucky, and I've been very lucky to be supported by many different community, and nothing but gratitude to the universe.
And like I said, I want to thank you. I also want to thank Joseph. Without you, we wouldn't be together talking today. So I want to say thank you. Guys, make sure you check him out on all his social media. Make sure you get his books. I have every single book. And like I said, I want to be the first one to buy the new book because I want an autographed copy. So I'll pay for extra shipping just to get that book. So, and guys, remember, my book just dropped today. I'm also giving personal coaching, how to get your podcast from thought process to profit in 8 weeks. If you want to be taught by me, just let me know. And guys, remember, like I'm a big Joel Osteen guy, and you all know that we all have a choice every day when we wake up to be a victim or we be a victor. And if you guys are watching this show, you guys are all victors. So I just want to say thank you so much. And Faisal, my brother, thank you so much for coming and hanging out.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Really, really honored, and thanks for having me again. And let me know when it comes out. We'll push it out on LinkedIn and other places.
And your son is always in my prayers, brother. Always in my prayers.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
So,
Thank
guys,
you.
remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have a great day, brother.